Now, do you think fishing with a different size tip really matters, and do you get confused about what size to use in what situation? Now, this video is for you if you do, because I'm going to go through the 3 sizes of this like slim range we've got at Preston Innovations and what scenario I'd look to use these in, whether it was your maggot fishing, meat fishing, corn, all them sort of stuff. So I've got them here, and let's get stuck into the video now. Right, so let's get stuck into the video and what I'd use. So first of all, I'm going to start off with, I'll just try and manoeuvre this, the F1 Fine. Now, why would I look to use this? What's so special about these sort of like float sizes, and what really makes a difference is the tip size. So we've got 3 different floats here, the F1 Fine, F1 Maggot and the F1 XS, which is brand new, which is a little bit different, and I feel like can help a lot of people that struggle to see stuff, but that'll make a difference, and we'll speak about that in a minute when we get to it. But the first one we're going to talk about is the F1 Fine. Now, you're probably thinking, well, what would you look to do with that? Now, I'd probably look in little scenarios where you feel like you're fishing for, say, shy biting fish. What this allows you, and why this is probably the best rig for that, is probably perfect for this time of year as well. Sort of winter, early spring months and late autumn, is the fine tip on it. Now, what I mean by that is you're probably thinking, what is he talking about? Now, this is probably one of the smallest in the range on these style of floats, is a 1.5mm tip. So this just offers a little bit less resistance, just because if there's some shy biting fish, you can dot it down. If you can see your float perfectly in some nice water, you can obviously dot it down and see all the small indications and bites. But there is a little downside to that. Sometimes you can see a little bit too much. When there's a lot of fish in your peg, these floats can be probably make it a little bit harder for you to see what's a true bite, what to strike at, missing a few bites. So this is really important, which tip sizes you look to use in what scenarios. So this is what I'm going to try and do in this little short video, is give you nice little scenarios and little, I don't want to say blueprint, but a nice little thing, nice starting place to start at. So an F1 Fine would probably be perfect for me. Say if I was catching silverfish like roach, skimmers, perch, stuff like that, small biting fish which are going to sort of like make it difficult to see, and you want less resistance when they start to pick up your bait. So when the bait's on the bottom, with say like fishing with maggots, casters, little bits of worm, say like on canals, on commercials, on natural venues, that's what I'd probably look to use. But like I said before, the only downside is they are really hard to see in certain scenarios. I'm not saying all the time, sometimes you get black water, sometimes you get dark water, you can see them really nice, but that thin bristle just offers less resistance. So that's what you want to think about when you're fishing. So like say you're silverfish fishing, obviously if I was looking to use this float, it'd be more perfect for me is when say like the lakes are iced over and I just needed a little bit less resistant. And then when they fish, what you got to think is the fish moving away when it picks up your bait? Is it being a really aggressive feeders? When it's not, this is the float for you. Now, probably the all-round one I like to use, and probably I used before the new float come out, and probably 90cm fishing, was an F1 Maggot, just because that's got a 1.5, so I feel like it's in the middle. That's a bit alright for everything, your soft pellet fishing, your maggot fishing, your meat fishing, and it just covers, you can see a 1.5 nice in certain scenarios. That's probably like the goat of the float. 1 point, dead steady, you know what you get with that float. You can fish with corn, bigger baits. That's the thing with that thinner bristle. The bigger the baits you use, so say if you started using like 6 and 8mm pellets or corn or heavier baits, it might affect your tip because obviously it's so sensitive, but you've got a little bit more buoyancy in tips like an F1 Maggot, so it makes it a little bit easier to see, obviously register on the float, which I think people don't take as much notice of as they should, especially with some questions I get asked about fishing places like here at Western, especially on site where there's so mixed fish from eyed, skimmers, F1s, carp. Reading the bristle and having the right one on is so important. So I'm going to say like me, sort of like F1 Maggot is like me, obviously me 70% of me fishing, the one I pick to straight time, obviously every time I need to, that's what I'm going to pick. But there's a brand new float which has come out this year. It's a little bit different because of the material which is using the stem, which offers a nice, something nice for areas with bad light, a little bit heavier baits like I said, and that's the F1 SX, I can't actually say stuff like that, F1 XS. And you're probably laughing at that because I do struggle with the XFS hook patterns, but that's got a 1.7mm tip. Now, a little bit heavier, but also it's got a fiberglass stem, so a little bit more strength, but also offers a little bit more weight in the float, so it takes a tiny bit less shot, just because it's got a little bit more weight into the stem of the float, as where them other two floats have got more of a they've got a carbon stem, so they're obviously shot up the same. Now, I have got rigs and videos which have shotting up, so I do talk about the shotting of them if you do struggle with that. And I will get onto these ones as well in time, but I've only just started fishing with them a lot more. And what I like to do is just, obviously on my channel, if I'm using stuff, is not just come on straight away and say this is brilliant because of this, like a robot. Is get using it, get some facts that I feel can talk about, and it just makes it a little bit more interesting. So I feel like there's a little bit more weight in the stem, so it probably takes like, I want to say a 4x10 of an F1 Maggot would probably take like 5 number 11s, but this probably takes 4 number 11s and a number 12. I know it sounds petty, but that's sort of thing I'm looking for when I'm dotting it down. Now, that's the next thing I want to talk about, is obviously the 1.7mm tip size is a little bit thicker. So what this enables you, so I'm here at the clay pit today, so you can see water like this here. Obviously, it'd be perfect in that sort of water, nice and clear, you'd see it. But where it's broken light with trees, if you go to venues, see like here, that's going to show up a lot better than probably that thinner one would there. Obviously, it's not going to show up because it's not in the water. That's what it'd show up a lot better, because obviously it's a thicker tip, it's a little bit easier to see, and you can dot them down, so you don't need as much bristle hanging out the water as you would with obviously a finer float, which sometimes you can't see your bites quick enough, as where this, you can dot it down. So I've been using this recently, a lot for my F1 fishing and my carp fishing with bad light scenarios. Recently used it to win a match up at Hampton, the 4x10 version. I've been using it up at Herringbrook as well, just because I feel like the Stamper fishing Herringbrook is a lot bigger. So like the F1's probably average 2 to 3 pound. There's a few carp in there as well, so a little bit bigger stamp fish, so I don't mind using a little bit bigger bristle. But say if I went to Hampton again and I fish on my Maggot line with, and I thought I was going to catch a lot of stockies, that littler one would be well, not littler one, the F1 Fine would probably be a float I'd look to use, just because it's a little bit thinner, a little bit less resistance, and you can maybe see them bites a little bit quicker. So there's 3 different floats there, which you think, yeah, they're all the same, just pick them out and go again. But you've got to remember, when you're fishing in light scenarios like this, it's all different, broken light and stuff, it's just important just to think about what float you're using. Now, you can get comfortable with it. Some people just use one set float, that's done. But I like it, my little blueprint I like to fish with, and it's not a set opinion, it's just mine. Everyone's got their own opinion of it, is when I'm fishing with delicate shy biting fish and I need a bit of finesse, an F1 Fine, dead simple. Gonna go to the F1 Maggot for like probably 70, can't speak today, probably until I've done a few videos. 70% of my fishing, F1 Maggot, never let me down. I know what I get with that, I know how to shot it up, I can read my float properly. But there's going to be scenarios probably coming into the springtime where you're going to be fishing with meat a little bit more, hard fall mill pellets. That's when I'm going to look to use the F1 XS, that's what I'm going to look to use. Try not to fall in through these boards because the water's everywhere. Look, you can see it's quite high on the pit at the minute. It's behind the boards. But yeah, that's what I'm going to look to use. Little scenario, so just go through it again for you. When you're looking for a bit of finesse, F1 Maggot, slightly thinner tip, 1.2mm. F1 Maggot's a 1.5mm, so that's probably my standard fishing. And if you struggle seeing it, or you're fishing with a little bit heavier baits, or even sort of like, I used it sort of coming into the back end of the year with like maggots and ground bait in the edge, but a little bit deeper on the complex. That's an ideal float because it's a little bit thicker. You're going to get a few fish in your peg. That's what I forgot to mention about the F1 Maggot and the F1 XS, is when there's a few fish in your peg, sometimes a little bit bigger bristle can just like minimise the sort of like, have you ever had it where your float's like that? I'll try and do it, and it's like, obviously if you've got it dotted and it's a bit thinner, it's going to, the fish touching the line, if it's a little bit thinner, it's going to make more of a dramatic effect on your float than if it would be thicker. And that's why it's important when it is like sort of finesse fishing, where it is a little bit cooler, and that's why that 1.2 can outscore probably a 1.7. Now, you're probably talking minimal things, obviously, with millimeters and stuff, but it's just important to do it. And I had a conversation with a fella about it the other week, and it just made me think, yeah, maybe I'm using the wrong float, or maybe I need to think about my float selection a little bit more, just so I can get the right one and try and maximise my fishing and catch as many fish as possible, because I feel like that's what we all want to do, catch loads of fish and make it dead easy for ourselves. But I find all this a little bit interesting with float sizes. Just feel like that's the fishing. Just makes it nice decision making, and it makes it a little bit nicer when you do catch some and you feel like you made the right decision. It's just a little bit more rewarding than plonking any old rig on and catching them. So they're the floats. We've run through it. Thank you for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I think it was on one of my last videos, the 60% of people weren't subscribed to the channel that watched it. Thank you for watching, but hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos if you enjoy watching these, and I'll see you on the bank soon.